Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We welcome you to services tonight, to those of you who are here with us and those of you joining us on live stream. We begin our service this evening on page 2 of your prayer books with the words of Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Boachem LeShalom, Malachei HaShalom,
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We extend to all of you a very warm welcome on what is officially a wintry Shabbat. I know winter starts this week, but the seasons have come and reminded us of the change of seasons before we had the chance to mark the calendar. I just have to stop for a moment and marvel at the creativity and innovation that have come forth during this ridiculous time. The cantor was saying before services, it's enough already, and I know lots of us are feeling that way. But if you saw the face of the father of the bar mitzvah, he was looking around wondering where the music is coming from. You see, at home it sounds like it's seamless, but because of protocol, the Ledetskis are here, the cantor is here, I am here, Matt Turk and Pedro are here, but they are in the chapel, socially distanced, and also, obviously, from us, but seamlessly, you hear them playing along with the music. So, as beautiful as it sounds, it's not as easy as it sounds. So, lots of kudos to Lucy, to Cantor Fishbein, to Matt Turk, to Pedro D'Aquino, to Mark Rothstein, have done so much work to make this work. We have a sound person from South Orange. He usually does jazz at Lincoln Center, who's back here doing sound. So the pandemic has given you us as a gift, so welcome. And of course to Mr. First, who is doing all the camera work. So again, an early thank you, because this is harder than you may think, but we are really doing everything we can to reach you. So on behalf of the Ledetskis and all of us, we extend to all of you a very, very warm welcome, especially if you are zooming in from wherever you are to join Jonah as becomes a bar mitzvah tomorrow. We especially welcome all of you. And any of you who are trying services perhaps for the first time, welcome to Congregation B'nai Jeshurun. It is really our privilege to have all of you here on this Shabbat evening. To continue services, we invite up the Ledetskis, at least the parents. We'll call on Seth and Amy to kindle the Sabbath lights. And we ask all of you to turn to page 6.
as we light these Shabbat candles.
Do we like that?
You can do it right after.
Okay. We link ourselves with the generations of our people who have kindled these holy flames. Time passes quickly, and we take this moment to pause and express our gratitude. We stand here as a bar mitzvah family with humility and with love for this occasion, for one another, and for being a part of this sacred community. As we participate in this age-old ritual, we embrace this moment as we move forward in the cycle of our lives. Yesterday we held our son in our arms, and tomorrow he will be called to the Torah as a bar mitzvah. These Shabbat candles remind us not only of the joy of this occasion, but they help us to see the light within one another and the strengths that each of us possesses. Grateful for all these precious gifts in our lives, we kindle the Sabbath light.
Now you light them.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen.
Continue with Kabbalat Shabbat on page 4 of your prayer books.
Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai baruchu shemo, basru miyom liyom yeshuato. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai baruchu shemo, basru miyom liyom yeshuato. ספרו בגויים כבודו, בכל העמים נפלאותיו, כי גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד, נורא הוא על כל אלוהים, כי כל אלוהי העמים מלילים באדוני, שמיים עשה, הוד והדר לפניו, עוז ותפארת במקדשו. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בסרו מיום ליום ישועתו. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בסרו מיום ליום ישועתו.
Continue with Lecha Dodi on page 6.
La
שמור וזכור, ודיבור אחד השמיענו, אל המיוחד אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד לשמו תפארת, ולתהילה לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נעשוך סוף מעשה, במחשבה תחילה לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך ומיורי, אורי, אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום, עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצולה, תוך אמונה עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
On the top of page 8, we rise for the Baruch Hu.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Please join me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhmah poteach she'arim, ובתבונה משנה עתים, ומחליף את הזמנים, ומסדר את הכוכבים, במשמרותיהם מרקיר כרצונו, בורא יום ולילה, גולל אור מפני חושך, וחושך מפני אור.
ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו. אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, המעריב ערבי.
The middle of page 9 responsively. In each age we receive and transmit Torah. At each moment we are addressed by the world.
In each age, we are challenged by our ancient teaching. At each moment, we stand face to face with truth.
In each age, we add our wisdom to that which has gone before. At each moment, the knowing heart is filled with wonder.
In each age, the children of Torah become its builders and seek to set the world firm on a foundation of truth.
Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
Please be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Adonai Elohechem Emet.
Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come. The song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more. The song of a world redeemed, the song of peace.
Who is like ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, v'amidenu malkeinu l'chayim, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Grant us, O God, that we lie down in peace, and raise us up, our guardian, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and our coming, to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem.
Baruch atah Adonai, ha'porei sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
Amen.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
On the top of page 15, we invite you to rise for the blessings of the Amidah.
Adonai, שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. At this point in our service, we turn our thoughts and we turn our prayers to those in our community who are in need of a prayer of healing. On this Shabbat, we send our prayers to Stanley Amsterdam, Errol Brett, and Cindy Baker, Bill Christie, Edward A. Cohen, and Marty Halpern, to Alan Tilley, Linda Lapchin, and Albert Levison, to Carolyn Katz-Leibowitz, Jerry Marcus, and Robbie Palermo, to Zerhad Roos, Diane Rosenstein, and Bruce Shapiro, to Sandy Solan, Arlene Scheininger, and Sharon Tillis, to Ezra Yarden, Ben Harab, Elkanah Lee, Vaharabah, Eliana Leah, Zohara Aviva, Bat Harav Moshe, Vaharav Rachel, and Ilana Miriam Bat Chava. If there are others at home or here who'd like us to say a public prayer of healing and Misha Berach, please feel free to say their names out loud, again here or at home. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofei Cholim. We praise you, Adonai our God, you who we call healer of the sick. From the healing of the individual to the healing of the collective, our world which so badly needs it, we turn our eyes to page 18, praying for the most precious gift of all, the prayer of peace. Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
It only takes a reminder to breathe, a moment to be still, and just like that, something in us settles, it softens, it makes space for imperfection. The harsh voice of judgment drops to a whisper, and we remember again that life isn't a relay race, that we all actually cross the finish line, that waking up to life is what we are actually born for. As many times as we forget, catch ourselves charging forward without even knowing where we're going, that many times we could make the choice to stop, to breathe, to be, to walk slowly into the mystery, the magnificent mystery, the magnificent gift that we call Shabbat. We take a few moments to pray in silence.
Ose shalom bimramav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ose shalom bimramav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ose shalom bimramav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ose shalom bimramav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
It was a rain-soaked day, one of those days where you feel like you're going to slip or your umbrella's going to break. Back in the 1970s, an African-American man on this rain-soaked day got on a bus, paid his fare, and an older Jewish woman with a Yiddish accent in the back of the bus screamed, "Roger, Roger." Everyone looked up as the woman augmented her voice. Roger looked and said, almost in well-spoken Yiddish, "Mama, is that you?" And she retorts again in Yiddish, goes back and forth in English to Yiddish and Yiddish to English, and says, "Roger, I haven't seen you for too long. What's going on? How's Marilyn? How are the kids?" They catch up, 2 or 3 stops. She says, "Make sure you come by this weekend again. It's been several weeks." He said, "Of course, Mama. I'll see you this weekend." Off he goes. People stopped paying attention to the weather, started looking at the Yiddish woman. She realizes that people don't understand, and she says, "Oh, you don't get it. You see, Roger is the best friend of my son. When he was 10 years old, his parents were killed in an automobile accident. And within a couple of weeks, we adopted him. He became part of our family. He grew up. And don't forget, mind you," she said, "we made him the best wedding you can ever imagine." Everyone forgot about the rain. They forgot about the day. They started to smile. Their spirits felt lifted up. The human touch, the human act, the human reach can do that. We have the power with our hands, with our hearts, with our spirits. It changes our energy. It changes our days. How we act in those ways, in those moments of need, could actually change the very trajectory of our lives. Picking each other up from the null and the void. Remember, that's what was here before the world was created. There was null and there was void. And it was filled in with space, with time, with light, with darkness, with animals, with fish, with nature, with human beings, who in turn can fill null and void with life, with fulfillment. The story is told about Ivan and Boris in a midrash, sitting in an old pub in old Russia. Ivan says to Boris, after 30 years of friendship, "Boris, do you love me?" He says, "Ivan, what are you talking about?" He says, "I'm asking you. We've been friends for 30 years. Do you love me?" He says, "Yeah, I love you." He says, "Come on, Boris, I really want to know. Enough of the beers already. Do you love me?" He says, "Yeah, I love you." "Yeah, I don't think you really love me," Ivan says. He says, "What are you talking about? I told you I love you." He says, "Boris, if you really loved me and you really knew me, you would know that I have a back pain right here in the lower corner of my back." Tough stuff, right? But this is one of the challenges for us, isn't it? How do we know when others are in need if they're not expressing it? Do we tell others when we're in need, when we're sad, when we might be feeling lonely? To some in our community, especially, and for obvious reasons over these past 9 months, but before that, but especially during these 9 months, loneliness is real. Really, really, really real. Some go to sleep and wake up and are in a constant state of loneliness. And I want to distinguish, there is a difference between being alone and loneliness. Being alone is good on many levels. It's good to meditate, it's good to take long walks, it's good to read a book, to get lost in a Netflix show, to sit on the couch and wonder and wander. But that's different. There's a difference between being alone and loneliness. Loneliness is about being isolated. It's about being separate. It's about feeling a lack of connection in the world. It's come to bear, again, it's reared a really ugly face during these months, highlighted by us being forced to be alone, forced into isolation, and it is real. It is real, and it is up to us. It is up to us who don't feel lonely. And by the way, I would say for those of you who are watching who do feel lonely, it's up to you too. It's up to all of us to somehow make the change, to change other people's lives, to give that touch, to give that heart, to give that spirit, to change the trajectory of the journey on which people travel. For those of you who were lucky enough last night to join the Book of Life class, we do this 2 Thursdays a month. You can find it on our website. We had the real honor of interviewing Anne Lamott, who is a well-known author, and she said lots of things that were so wise last night, but the thing I woke up thinking about this morning, and she said when we asked her what her job in life is, not renowned author, not mother, not wife, all of those were important. She says, for me, I show up and give thirsty people water. That's my job in life. I show up and give thirsty people water. Well, do the Rashi on it, do the subtext, do the underneath there. That's our job in life. When people are thirsty, we give them water. When people are hungry, we give them food. When people are freezing, we give them coats. And when people are lonely, we find a way to keep them company. That's why we exist. Indeed, when God created the world, when I started to tell you a little bit about the story just a couple of moments ago, if you remember, God says, this is light and it is good. This is dark and this is good. These are the crocodiles and it's good, and the human beings are very good. But there's one thing that God assesses as not good. One time there's negativity expressed in those first few chapters, and that's when human beings are alone. That's when God assesses that that is not good. And we are God's messengers. There's a story told of a seamstress who lived alone. Her only visitors were her customers, and her one task in life gave her fulfillment, which was to make clothes for the children in the local orphanage. When she died, her death was barely noticed in town. Yet one of those orphans became a successful businessman. And years later, when asked about the secret of his success, he explained, "When I was a child, I lived in that orphanage. I spent all too many nights crying myself to sleep. Yet the one thing that pulled me through was the new set of clothes I received each year, for they held a special secret. Each year in one of those pockets was a small note. It was just for me, and I savored its message, and it reassured me that I was not alone and that I would not spend all of my days in longing." A villager questioned what was written on those notes. What could have healed the loneliness? And he says, it's funny. I think you missed the point. It wasn't the actual message. It was that she took the time to write one for me personally every single year. Yeah, sometimes the words were sweeter and more touching than others, but I knew when I had had my parents already leave me that someone out there who didn't even know me made sure to write me a note that my heart was important, that my soul was important, that my being, that my existence counted as much as everyone else's did. We are heading into a time, and perhaps we should stop saying that we're heading in it. We're now in it. We're in that hard time. We're in that cold winter that has been talked about by Dr. Fauci and the rest of them on TV, on the internet, and on the radio. But the science says, my good people, the science says that if we can somehow just find a way to start, to get up, to write that note, to make that phone call, whatever it is, that not only will we save the days of those who are out there feeling lonely, but guess who else we're going to save? We're going to save ourselves. Our physiology changes, our psychology changes, our spirituality changes just by virtue of doing something to help make someone else who feels alone feel connected, feel cared for, feel worried about. It helps us to remember ourselves. It helps us to find and refine the trust within ourselves, our sense of self, our deepest sense of meaning and of wisdom. It brings light to those who are dimming and helps us kindle our own. It's the way to kindle the Chanukiah, the menorah, even as the sun has gone down and the holiday has officially ended. We're told in the Torah, Kol Aravim Zeh Lezeh. We are all, every single one of us, responsible for each other. The ones we love and the ones who are even a pain, as my father would say in the Tuchas. Each one of them we are responsible to, perhaps even the ones who rub us the wrong way, even more than the ones with whom we get along so easily. We are all responsible for each other. With that, I end with a story that has always been seared into my memory since it was told to me. It was my 4th year of rabbinic school in the class of Rabbi Larry Kushner. It was a Parshanu class, a class we had to unwrap the meaning of Torah each week, but from a very specific point of view to try to take real life story and connect it. And my classmate Shira Penzias told us about her aunt who lived in Nazi Germany. She was on a bus trying to be anonymous, did not have papers. She was a Jew. Those of us who know the stories knows what happens to someone without papers in that time. She's on the bus, and sure enough, the Gestapo gets on the bus. They tell the bus driver, pull over, we're checking papers. So they go person by person, checking papers, separating those who don't have the appropriate papers, knowing exactly where they're going. As they're getting closer to my classmate's aunt, she starts to sweat, and she starts to mumble, she starts to get nervous, and the person next to her says, what's wrong with you? What are you doing? She said, I don't have papers. And he said, okay, well, just tell him what happened. Tell him you left him at home. She said, you don't understand. Like, I don't have papers at home. I don't have papers here. I'm a Jew. And without missing a beat, the guy gets enraged and he yells, you lousy, lousy whore! He starts to yell at her. Whore and all the kinds of words that I couldn't even mention here from the pulpit, yelling and screaming at her. And the Gestapo comes over and he says, I can't believe my lousy wife. I told her during these times that she should never forget her papers. She always forgets them at home. I'm sick and tired of her games. I'm sick and tired of marriage. My wife is not worth anything. The Gestapo soldiers look at each other and says, old married couples are unbelievable, aren't they? Lady, next time, do me a favor, bring your papers and don't drive your husband crazy. The Gestapo gets off the bus stops. The man smiles at the woman who is a stranger to her and he is a stranger to him, gets off the bus and wishes her well. My classmate said that she never, ever saw that man again. Didn't know what made him stick up for her in that time, in that place. Didn't know what that act was all about. But it saved her life, it saved her lineage. It allowed her to go on when that could have represented the very end of her existence. That's the extreme, which I hope if I was called upon or you were, we'd step up and do the right thing also, that we would respond. But while pondering the ultimate sacrifice, in the meanwhile, let's think about the smaller ones. About during this time, during these dark days, during these last few months as we head towards receiving that shot in the arm, which is going to get us back in the world, please, let's not forget to pick up the phone, to fire up the Zoom, to write the note, to create the text, and eventually, as we get those shots, to remember how important that visit and that embrace is. To those of us who might look like we're doing totally fine on the outside, but are really feeling sick from loneliness on the inside, it's out there more than people would admit, and it's our job as God's messengers to go out there and create that very good to help people feel connected, to transform through this time, and indeed get to the other side. It will save their lives, and it will save ours. Let that be our task from God to be fulfilled as together we say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. As we come to the concluding part of our service, we ask you to please rise and turn to page 19 as the ark is opened. Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו, ושמו, ושמו אחד.
And now at this point in our service, we turn our thoughts to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people and those of every race and every nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them on this Shabbat, let us meditate on the meaning of love and of loss, of life and of death. We first remember those who have passed during this 7-day period of Shiva. We remember Harry Allen, husband of Isabel, father of Beth and Seth, grandfather of Zachary, Morgan and Kara, Rachel and Matthew. We remember Betty Cohen, wife of the late Bill, mother of Gail and Ted and the late Lori, grandmother of Jack and Julia, Jordan and Justin, Jeff, Allison and Audrey. We remember Richard Bain, uncle of Phyllis Kessler and Donald Kessler. And we remember Jean Friedlander Berezin, wife of Mike, mother of Tracy, David, and Rob, grandmother of Will, Sam, Eli, and Georgia. And during this period of Shloshim, the traditional Jewish 30-day period of mourning, we remember Eugene Elson, Dr. A. Ralph Christeller, Elaine Lang, Rochelle Lipton, Aaron Lutvak, Dr. Shirley Sugarman Rosenberg, Vincent Senna, and Sheila Stern. And on this their yahrzeit, the yearly anniversary of passing, we remember Alexander Adickman, Sarah Back, Elmer Barnhard, David Benjamin, Flora H. Blake Road, Emmanuel Bloom, Peg Reitman Carter, Frances Evelyn Cohen, Ida S. Cowan, Benjamin Fuhrer, Helene R. Fink, Gladys Fisher, Flora Freed, Ruth Froelich, Blanche Goldstein Glazer, Augusta Glucksman, Sarah Gottlieb, Israel B. Green, Dr. Leonard S. Greenfield, Mark B. Grossman, Babette J. Guggenheim, Gladys Harris, June Silver Harris, Ruth S. Harris, Robert E. Heller, David Horowitz, Sidney Isserman, Merle Lee Katcher, Ada Samuels Katzen, Benny K., Jean King, Shirley Teitelbaum Kruger, Mayor S. Lederer, Martin David Lead, Samuel M. Levine, William Littman, Emmanuel London, Roger Manchell, Max Marks, Paul Maurer, Abraham Mayer, Gertrude Lewis Meyer, Bertha Michael, Charles Miller, Samuel Miller, Robert J. Nallett, Ann Ruth Press, Laura Rosenstock, Bessie Weber Ross, Alvin C. Schottenfeld, Leo Schwartz, Dr. John D. Schinberg, Howard Richard Sklar, Herbert Z. Steiner, Sylvester Solzbach, Beatrice Meyer Treen, Evelyn Untracht, Joel Wasserstein, Bertha Wexler, Grace S. Weil, Gerald Weinstein, Louis Weissman, Anna Meltzer-Wolf, Dr. Arthur Wolf, Ben Zimmerman.